Well, hello there, YouTube. The other day I posted a video on this gasket sealer that I use for Dad's pipes and mentioned that when I do mine, I might make a video about it. So here I am. When I put my pipes on, I got a little bit of the decibel popping, but it wasn't terribly bad, and I did the stage 1 kit with my Vance & Hines VO2 air filter, and I got the Vance & Hines fuel pack as well. So it took care of the popping once I remapped my ejectors anyway. But just for good measure, I'm going to go ahead and put gasket sealer around it anyway because it doesn't hurt. So I'm going to try and record as much of this as I possibly can. First thing you do is get your motorcycle either on some kind of stand so it'll support itself, because you're going to be yanking on these pipes trying to get them off and twisting them and stuff. You don't want your bike falling over, trust me. So anyway, the first thing you do, if you don't know how to take off a muffler on a motorcycle, you always start at the back and you do the C-clamp on the rear first, and then underneath the motorcycle there are, let's see if I can get in here, get the zoom. There are 2 bolts right here and right here, and the muffler will literally slide off. The first thing I can mention, get this C-clamp loosened up so you can actually slide the pipe off. There, nice and loose now. And then we're going to untorque these 2 bolts down here and take them off altogether. One. I got new bolts when I bought these pipes, so they're nice and clean. So the biggest thing now is trying to get the pipe off the bike, and that's where you're trying to get it out the best you can. That's really all you can do. And what doesn't help is I've got these big old saddlebags here, so just gonna slide. That one wasn't too bad at all. So now that we have the back pipe off, the next step that we need to do for this is to take off the rear heat shield. We'll do this before taking off the front pipe for one specific reason. There is a C-clamp holding on the heat shield, and as I take off this pipe, the screw back here will end up hitting the pipe and scratching it. So we'll go ahead and do that now. And it's very basic, very easy. You got 1, 2, 3 clamps, and they just kind of unscrew right here. And then this whole shield comes off. Okay, so now we have the rear whole muffler off and the heat shields. So now we're going to take off the front muffler and the front heat shields. Same process. You got 1 C-clamp here, except this time you have 4 bolts on the underneath side of it, at least on the Sportster. And 2 of them hold in the muffler to this black bracket here. We're going to leave those alone. We're only concerned about the ones that are actually mounted in the black holes right here. Those will remove this bracket that holds it onto the bike. So we're going to remove this bolt, and we're going to loosen up the C-clamp. So now the same process. We're going to, instead of just grabbing the muffler and trying to bring it out, we're going to bring out this whole assembly. So now with that muffler off, we're going to do the exact same thing with the heat shields. we've got a heat shield clamp right here, right underneath this bar, which is a bear to get to for me because I've got the bar there. And then we have one down under here. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the heat shield off, and I'll see you guys when I get done. All right, guys, so now you can see I've got both mufflers removed and both heat shields, and I've got them sitting over there. So the next step that we want to do is clean off the pipes pretty good. I've just got an old or a shop towel, and we're just gonna kind of clean off some of this stuff to make sure it doesn't have any major debris on it. Okay, looks pretty good. And then we're going to go to the mufflers. And we're just going to get the rag inside of here and clean up in here too. But I can't do that while holding the phone. So I'll go ahead and do that real good. You just want to make sure that it's nice and clean inside of here. So you have a good bonding material with the sealant. Okay, so this is where the fun part really gets going. Make sure that you've, like I said, you've cleaned up in here really good. You can see where the clamp mounted. So we want to get about right in here, about halfway on, maybe a little more than half. And we're going to put a good sized bead of this gasket sealer that I picked up. The Permatech gaskets. Make sure it's the maximum temperature because these pipes do get hot, obviously. And you don't want it starting to melt off or anything. I think these pipes only get up to 300 degrees tops, or maybe a little more than that. This gasket sealer is rated at 700 degrees Fahrenheit. So, this will be more than sufficient, and it drops down to, what was it, like -30 or something. So it's not going to crack or anything during the winter. I don't have a heated garage. So this will be great. So, like I said, what we're going to do, and I'm going to do this the best I can while holding the phone, but I think for the most of it, I'm not going to be able to. But about 3/4 of the way around, you put a nice, good bead. This stuff is pretty sticky, so you don't have to worry about it falling off. It's almost a rubber altogether before it even dries. So you're going to do that, and then I'll show you what to do next. So once you get a good sized bead all the way around it, where it goes all the way around, just kind of take your finger and you just going to make sure that it does impact the entire diameter. All the way around. Okay, so now what you're going to do, since that is the front muffler, we're now going to go to the muffler itself. And we're just going to, the residue that's on your finger, just put it up in here. Just put it all around it. That way you have a good bonding material. That way it kind of sticks to itself. And then any leftover, we're just going to clean up. So once you do that, go ahead and grab the muffler and try to slip it on. And I'll try to show you that here in just a minute. So now that you've got a good sized bead going around it, you've got some inside the muffler itself. Now we're going to work on putting this thing back together. So the best part about this is, since you have that rubber stuff inside there, the muffler slips on really super easy. Kind of squish around. That way you know you got a good solid fit. And then go ahead and start your first bolt in, because it will snap into this little piece here. That way you know that you're where you're supposed to be at. And then go ahead and start your second bolt. Now once you get that done, you're going to have a nice ring right around here. See how there's some protruding out where we've pushed it through? You're just going to literally take your finger and just get some of the stuff off. Just get as much of it if you can. It helps seal the gap inside there, and it's just going to clean up a little bit. That way when you're done, it makes a perfect seal. Okay, so now we've done that. The instructions say to hand tighten the area where it makes contact, and then after 1 hour, put it down to torque. So I torque my C-clamps down to about 58 foot-pounds. That's what my service manual says. So in 1 hour, I'll come back out and I'll put that down to 58 foot-pounds. In the meantime, we'll do the second. The rear is exactly the same. We will put a bead right around in here. Any leftover that we have on our finger from making it all the way around, we'll put inside the muffler where the clamp is. That way it gets a good tight seal and it bonds well together, and then we'll slip it on. So now we've got a good ring all the way around. It goes all the way under. Now we're going to take our muffler and all the access that's on my finger. I'm just going to put it in here. Just like that. So now that we have it on both the muffler and the pipe, hopefully I can get this to where you can see okay. And we're just going to slide that muffler right on. Again, try and get in all the stuff in there as best you can. And go ahead and start your screws so you know you're in the right spot. Great, so now we know we're in the right spot. We got our screws started for the muffler. And this is the exact same thing. We're just going to take our finger and just wipe away the excess, which will in turn push all that stuff right down inside the groove there. Just giving it that extra tight seal. Just like that. Alright guys, congratulations. The hardest and messiest part is over. So as you can see, we got a good nice seal right there. I kind of like the orange contrast too. And we got a good nice seal right there. So once that dries up, it's going to turn into literally a rubber material, and there will be no air getting through there. So that's awesome. Next step is putting the heat shields back on. And you're just going to repeat this in the exact same opposite of what you took them off. You're going to have a couple of heat shield clamps. You'll have 3 on each pipe, and you'll just clamp them back down, just hand tight. Those don't get torqued. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rear, and then I'll check back with you. Okay, so now that we've got the rear completed, we have the muffler back on. It's hand tight for the time being. And then we got the heat shield back on and it's tight. Now we're going to put the heat shield back on the front. Same process. Alright guys, so now that we've done that, we now have both the mufflers back on with the sealer inside of it. And we have the heat shields back on, and I've already went ahead and tightened down the heat shields, hand tight like I said. But we can go ahead and torque down the bolts that hold the mufflers to the bike. Not the C-clamp, but just the bolts underneath of it. For a Sportster, or at least for a 2015 Sportster, according to my service manual, it requires 15 to 19 foot-pounds of torque. So I will go ahead and do 18. So we'll go ahead and do that. The hardest part about this, first you always want to double check your foot-pounds. I'm on 18. The hardest part is getting some bolts because they're at an angle. So you have to use an adapter. Okay. All right, so there's all the bolts. They're all torqued down like they should be. And here in about an hour, I'll end up coming back and torquing down the clamps to 60 foot-pounds, which is according to my service manual what it should be. Don't forget, after you done doing anything on your bike, you want to take a nice cloth and wipe off all your fingerprints that you have, because if you don't and your bike gets running, it will burn those in. So I'll be back in about an hour and we'll tighten those down and call it done.